We're here today with John Sgromolo, Athletic Director of St. John's Country Day School. Thank you, John. I really appreciate this time to be spending with you and what we're going to learn from John about leadership. John grew up in Clay County. This is his backyard, and now he's at a high level in his career, from growing up in Clay County schools to playing professional baseball, college baseball at Flagler College, which is in St. Augustine, and getting a chance to play in the minor leagues for the LA Dodgers. Huge deal. So we're happy to be here with you. John is a family man. He has a wife and a young child, Charlie. Charlie's what now, 2 years old?
Almost 3, yeah.
Almost 3? And then you have a baby on the way, right?
That's right. She's due in October.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're so happy to be here with him. We're going to learn a lot of good stuff from a leader in our community who is also running for Clay County Commissioner, and that's something to be proud of.
Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, of course. Let's get to it. All right, so obviously you grew up playing baseball, and so tell me a little bit about that. Like, what got you into baseball? Was there somebody that inspired you to play, or walk me through that?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story. So my parents told me when I was 2, 3 years old, you know, they wanted to find out what I love to do. So they wanted me to be involved in athletics. So my dad gave me all different kinds of sports balls. They gave me basketball, and I really didn't do much with it. Gave me a football, and you know, threw it a couple times. But he gave me a baseball, and I held on to it everywhere that I went. And I don't really know what it was. It was
so
just
you were
something,
destined to be a baseball player.
Yeah, it was something that, you know, just I gravitated towards. For my 3rd birthday, I got catcher's gear for my birthday. So, you know, I just loved the sport. It was something that I naturally gravitated to. My dad played soccer in high school. My mom didn't play sports. So it's just something natural, and I took to it and stuck with it.
That's awesome. And did you have a specific like role model or somebody in your early childhood or growing up that inspired you to become a baseball player or become a student athlete? What was that like?
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily I had any specific role models for baseball per se. My grandfather is probably my biggest mentor, just in general. My grandfather's Charles Bowling is my biggest mentor. But as far as sports, I always just looked up to the older kids, right? So, and that's one thing that we can all learn from is that whether you realize it or not, as a leader, you're influencing people, whether you realize you're having a direct impact on them. So for me, being in Little League, I always wanted to watch the bigger kids play. And then when I got into junior high, I wanted to see high school games. When I was in high school, I wanted to see college and then pro. So really just looking at the people in the levels above me was always motivating.
Yeah, and that's always good to look at people who are already doing it so that you have an example and a path to follow. That's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt.
So Callie, you play soccer for St. John's, and you are now a junior on the Leadership Council.
Yes, ma'am.
So did you always view yourself as a leader, or did you grow into the role?
I would say as I was younger, I've always kind of just had a dominant personality, and I led in a lot of things. But as I got older, it definitely grew a lot more, and I'm definitely more vocal with my leadership now.
That's awesome. What are you looking forward to most this season in this role of leadership?
I'm super excited just to get to know all of our new players on the team. We have a good amount, and I'm excited to get to know them.
That's great. And did you have a role model growing up, whether it was soccer or somebody important in your life that displayed strong leadership?
Definitely my dad. He's always been somebody I look up to, just because he also played college soccer. And he's just been very involved in my life, sports-wise, and he's taught me a lot about what it means to be a leader and to think about others before yourself.
Cool. And one last question. For you in this season, not just like soccer season on the pitch, but like in this season of life with balancing school and I know you also play tennis and golf, and you're a multi-sport athlete and you're academically inclined and all this stuff. Is there something that you will be working on? And it doesn't have to be a profound answer, just something that for yourself that you're personally working on.
Definitely trying to balance social life and sports life. I used to be able to go to like all of the outside school events and show up to volleyball games and support my school, but it's definitely gotten a lot harder because my classes have gotten harder. So I've had to learn that I can't have the same life I had last year. You know, like I have to limit everything that I do.
Yeah. And so for kids who are kind of in the same position as you in high school, and maybe they play multiple sports, they're a leader on their team, and they have all these things going on, do you have one piece of advice for them, something that you may be doing or something that you learned that can help them out?
I would just say try everything you can, like you never know. I mean, I'm still playing 2 sports and people have told me I should focus on one, but I like to do everything that I can because life's short. You only have high school for 4 years. Might as well do everything that you want to do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Callie. You're the bomb.
Of course.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience at Flagler College. I read up on you and you were player of the week several times. You started most of the games, all conference player, juggling classes and your social life and being a student athlete, playing the sport. Tell me a little bit about that and some of your favorite experiences.
Well, I'll tell you what, Shim, like being a student athlete at Flagler College motivated me to become an athletic director. I can tell you that my athletic director there, Judd Damon, he's still the athletic director at Flagler. He was my #1 mentor. I have a couple of great stories of times that he really poured into me from a leadership perspective. So I can't say that there's one specific thing that I love the most. I think to be honest, it was the day-to-day grind. It was learning how to manage my time, learning how to be a leader amongst other student athletes, right? So as you go up the ladder of leadership, you deal with tougher situations. You have to have more empathy. You have to be able to visualize the future, not just this week, but next month and next year and what's going to happen the next 3 years. I was around a lot of adults who had great leadership ability, so I think ultimately that was why the Flagler experience was so good.
That's great. And those adults that you were around that displayed strong levels of leadership, what were some of the key takeaways that you learned in your college career and how you developed your role as a leader?
I would say ultimately it comes down to what is your #1 resource in life. If you're leading something or someone, what is your #1 priority? For us, as athletic directors, it is the student athlete. So every decision that we make hinges off how does this affect the student athlete experience. If you're on a soccer team, it would be your teammates are your most important asset. How do my actions affect my teammates? And that's something that as you go on through life, as you play on more teams, as you become a part of larger organizations, you have to put your ego aside and ask yourself, are my current actions affecting others? And essentially, that is leadership.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you put it that way because, I mean, I've read a bunch of books on leadership. I have my own perception from what I've learned, but the actions. So people can talk all they want and put on a good face and say things, but if they are not acting in the characteristics that make them a leader, then that doesn't make them a leader.
Sure, absolutely. To me, a lot of times there's a million definitions of leadership out in the world. To me, my best definition of leadership is influence. Leaders have influence, and there's positive and negative influence, right? So there are some people who are negative leaders, but positive leaders have the ability to positively influence others to act. If you are a leader and no one follows you, you're simply going on a walk. So leaders have groups of people that they are able to convince to act in the manner that they want them to, whether that is working hard and showing up to practice, holding each other accountable through training sessions. Leaders have the ability to influence.
So you played professionally in the minor leagues for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Your path to becoming pro, what was the most important thing? Maybe there was not one most important thing, but maybe there's a couple things that you learned on your way to becoming a professional athlete. Can you share that with us?
Sure. I think there's a ton of things that I learned in becoming a professional athlete. The first is if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to. Coming out of high school, I actually only had one college offer to play college baseball, and that was from Dave Barnett at Flagler College. And I had every JUCO in Northeast Florida say I was too slow, and he can hit a little bit, but he's not fast enough to play college baseball. And Coach Barnett saw just enough in me to give me a very small scholarship to Flagler, and a lot of it took belief, and for me personally, I used people's doubts as fuel to the fire of where I wanted to go, and eventually made my dreams come true. But it's a very long, hard road, and I think you learn to have a mindset of not taking no for an answer. Sometimes there's an adage about a door is a symbol for an opportunity, and sometimes you got to build your own door. And for me, I kind of looked at my career. A lot of things fell my way, which is good. I mean, sometimes things don't fall your way in life, but ultimately, I didn't take no for an answer. I knew where I wanted to get, and I knew what I had to do to get there, and the resiliency that I had to have. But ultimately, you got to start with believing in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a huge thing for a lot of student athletes right now, having the confidence and the belief in themselves, because we hear all this noise from the world. There's social media, right? And there's always going to be somebody who's hating on what you're doing, right? And so being able to have the capacity just to focus on yourself and having the resilience to move forward is key. And you're hearing that from a former professional athlete. What is one piece of advice that you could give to a kid who is, maybe they're not a kid, maybe they're just a player who's trying to achieve the next level and they are not feeling confident in themselves? What's the first step that you think they can take to having some kind of belief in their abilities?
I had a coach back in the Dodgers organization that shared this quote with me, and it really resonates across all platforms in life. And that is, the things that take no ability to do, you've got to be the best at. So if you can't do those little things right, it's going to be very hard to be successful down the line. Being on time, being a good person, laying your clothes out the night before so you're prepared for the next practice. We'll talk later about books, but one of my favorite books, Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, he's an ex-Navy SEAL, talks about discipline equals freedom. So the more discipline that you have in your life, the more freedom you're going to have to excel down the road.
Do you believe that your involvement in sports at a young age has helped you develop your character as a leader today?
Without a doubt. I think when you look at what is involved in being on a sports team, trust of others, respect of others, time management, empathy, if something bad happens on your team, learning to empathize with others, goal setting. So many factors of being a great leader stem from being involved in athletics. And that could be a multitude of sports. It could be soccer. It could be an individual sport like swimming or tennis. Ultimately, there's a lot of things that go into participating in a sport, and you're going to need to be successful at all of those characteristics to be a good leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people who want to become leaders, maybe they have some characteristics already, but they're not really sure how to be a strong leader. What do you have to say to them? Is this a myth that you have to be a natural born leader to lead, or can you learn and grow into that position of leadership?
I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think that everyone can be taught. I think that people have limits. I think that some people have their setbacks, but at the same time, we all can improve in our leadership every single day. One of the biggest things in leadership is that in your organization or on your sports team, there can be varying levels of leadership. You might be able to lead a small group, right? So in practice, if your coach puts you in a group of 3 or 4 players, you could lead that group. You could instruct the team of what you want them to do. Now the question is, do you have enough influence for them to follow you? If they follow you, you are leading, right? And that's the most basic terminology of leadership, as opposed to higher level leadership, which is you're in the last 10 minutes of the game, the game is tied, and the coach is looking for someone to motivate the team to score a goal, right? There's 2 ways of going about that. You could simply say, hey, get your butts in gear, you guys got to score a goal, which, going back to characteristics of leadership, my question to that athlete is this: do you have a good relationship with your teammates, right? If they don't like you as a person, or most importantly, not whether they like you or not, if they don't respect you, they're not going to follow you. They're not going to work harder. So there's many facets that go into becoming a great leader, but ultimately, every day, each of us can get better.
Yeah, definitely. And we talked a lot about influence, like environment, who is influencing you and how you are influencing others. So I think that's a huge part to talk about, because like we talked about earlier with the social media thing, it's not necessarily sometimes about who are you influencing, but who's influencing you, because if you're not receiving the right messages from the environment around you, how can you become that strong leader that you desire and to make certain changes within your team environment if that's something that you want?
Part of that, piggybacking off what you just said, is as an athlete, you got to be coachable, right? So one thing is that you've got to be open to coaching from coaches that coach hard, and they might scream a little bit, or they might stay on you. They're doing that out of love, right? And they want to empower you to become a better leader. So ultimately, learning how to be coached is very important if you want to coach others.
Absolutely. So we talked about some examples of displaying strong leadership. If someone wants to step into this role of leadership, what are some examples that would be just bad to follow? What are some examples of bad leadership?
Sure, great question. What are examples of bad leadership? So one example would be being a dictator, simply telling people to do something because you told them to do so. I think that's one of the first missteps that leaders make when they go and they enter into the world of bad leadership. They simply believe that because they have a title, people are going to follow them. That's not having influence, right? So a good way to not do that is, like I said previously, start building relationships with people. There's a great show out there, Ted Lasso, if you've ever seen it. And one of the best quotes in Ted Lasso is, "Be curious, not judgmental." So I would challenge you with your teammates and your classmates. When's the last time you asked someone questions instead of telling them what to do? Ask them questions to learn about them, learn where they're coming from, learn their approach, and then from then, that person will then have a sense of, wow, Shim really cares about me enough to even ask how my day is going, instead of showing up at practice and saying, let's go pick up the ball.
Fire round. Let's have a little bit of fun here, get to know John a little bit more. And I know you're a huge reader. You love books, audiobooks I think you listen to as well. We can all learn from a good book. I talk about books a lot on the channel. So what are some books that have impacted you that you think can impact others?
I think the top two books, I'd have to say, one is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, a great leadership book. You can learn a ton about leadership through that book. The second book is actually by the owner of the Savannah Bananas, Jesse Cole. Yeah, it's called Find Your Yellow Tux, and it's all about team building, marketing, leadership, but it talks about how he's created just this awesome environment for people to thrive as the leader of the Savannah Bananas, and that's his Yellow Tux, building your brand as a person. Two of my favorites.
Yeah, that's huge in these days, building your own brand. We're taking a shift in the world right now where people aren't just buying into the team itself or to the company itself, but they want to see the individual and want to see the background of the person. They want to see genuineness and some authenticity that, yeah, this is like real, like this is a real person doing something that's real in real life. And being able to sit here with you and you're a walking example of leadership is really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, and so that leads me to my next question, honestly. What made you, or I guess what inspired you to run for Clay County Commissioner and then win the elect?
Yeah. So, I think it comes back to leadership, believe it or not. I mean, ultimately, as a elected official, you're a quasi leader, right? So I think people don't necessarily, they somewhat elect you to lead. They more so elect you to represent them, right? And that's something that throughout my career as an athletic director and a coach, I've really enjoyed serving others, right? Because I think that's what leadership is. It's service. And if you get into a leadership position because you're about yourself, you're not going to be leading very long. So it's very important that you serve others, you put others first. My family and I just have an extreme pride for Clay County. The leaders in the Clay County community have given us so many opportunities over the years through the school system and through athletics and through growing up here. So ultimately, it was my opportunity to give back and my opportunity to serve my community. And so far, it's just been such a blessing. All the people that I've gotten to meet and the opportunities that I've had and my family has had through the campaign. And I'm looking forward to being sworn in November.
Sweet. Good stuff. I love that. Congrats. Through your display of leadership, coming back to that student athlete background, getting to the professional level, I know that you have a special award that you won when you were in college at Flagler College playing baseball. Can you tell us about that? You can even grab it
Sure, grab that bad boy. It's right there. Yeah, we'll put it here. So yeah,
Sweet.
this award was I was the 2012 NCAA Division II Male Sportsmanship Athlete of the Year for the entire U.S. and NCAA Division II, and this award means so much to me, especially because of what's behind it, and that is all of my teammates. Our school at Flagler College, our athletic director, Judd Damon, was really about doing things the right way. Ultimately, what this award means is that through my teammates and through my school, we found a way to play at a really high level, but to do it the right way. And I carry that now here at St. John's. I've carried it at Ridgeview. I carried it with Clay County Athletics as the county athletic director. Because at the end of the day, putting sports aside, all of us are human beings and all of us are neighbors. And while athletics may get extremely competitive, while our world may get extremely, high temperatured, we have to take a step back sometimes and say, you know what, that person goes home to their family just like I do. They have problems in their life just like I do. So let's work together. And ultimately, that's what this is all about, working together.
Yeah, that's a great message. Did you expect to get this award, or was it a complete shock to you?
Yeah, it was a complete shock. I was actually, when the athletic director called me, I was on a bus in Arizona heading to a pro baseball game because they announced it after I had graduated. And I was nominated and from someone on our campus, and through the application process of some examples of things that I had done throughout my time at Flagler, the NCAA selected me. So it was truly humbling, and it's something that, as you see, it still means a lot to me, and I keep it everywhere I go.
Yeah, that's a great reminder of what you had done then. I'm sure that leads into your daily life now.
Sure, no question. I mean, it's like, as an athletic director, it's all about that student-athlete experience, and this is a good reminder of it's all about the kids.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, so that's it. We were here with John Sgromolo, Clay County Commissioner-elect and stud former baseball player at the pro and college level, leading thousands of student athletes in his career as an athletic director in several schools and at the county level. So we're super appreciative of having you. Thank you so much. You're the bomb. And we'll be working together on a couple more things too.
Thanks for having me, Shimmy.
Yeah.